Hello there, I'm Tim and he's John, and this is How to Murder Time, a podcast about games and things.
Hello, everybody.
Watcher.
How have you been?
I've been great. How about you been?
I've been ill. We missed a week.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
See, I'm not the weakest link here.
No, you're not.
No.
I'm always the weakest link.
Still, 3 weeks or something, so that's
Yeah.
probably a huge amount of games and things to talk about.
You'd think.
Yes. Right, I'm going to kick off with Grand Theft Auto 5.
Wow.
GTA V, as
Did you
as
know
the kids
that it was
call
one
it.
of the best-selling computer games last year?
I'd heard as much. I'd heard it was quite popular. So I
It's
thought now's the
remarkably
time
popular still.
now's the time to get on that bandwagon.
Also, GTA Online
Yeah.
had its most profitable month in December.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that really. I'm still
It's the other
playing-
menu option.
Well, I mean, I bought it, I downloaded it, installed it, and the very first thing it asks me to do is create a Rockstar Social Club account. It
Yeah.
wants my email address, my date of birth, and I'm just thinking, I almost didn't bother. That
Yeah.
kind of thing is
Yeah.
absolutely the last thing I want to see when I fire up a brand new computer game. Tell me all your personal details. You cannot play this game unless you enter the credit card details and the last 3 digits of the security number on the back. And you're thinking, it's just a game, just a computer game.
Do I really want to give you any details?
I know. Manic Miner. You imagine in credit card details to play Manic Miner. Anyway, it didn't actually ask for payment details, to be fair.
It will do.
Well, yeah, it's just I get what it is. It's we don't trust any kind of copy protection, so we're going to make it an always online service, and that's fine. It connects to something or other when you start it up, your Rockstar Social Club account. And I just think, another one of these, you know? I've already got Steam, already got Ubisoft's thing.
It's yet another thing to be hacked.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't mind if I trusted them with my details. You know, it's not that they... clearly, they don't trust me, because that's what this whole system is about. All PC gamers are thieves, of course.
It's also on console, don't forget.
Well, yeah, I bet they don't have to fill in a Rockstar Club social thing, do they?
No, it might be...
No, because it's all built into the...
Yeah, it's slightly
You've
automated.
already signed your details away on the
Yeah, it
platform
just goes
holders
across.
thing. Yeah, your Xbox Gold or your PlayStation Network or whatever. So, yeah, that soured me extensively. So I was watching it install and fire up the first time with a kind of cross, grump on stats out of the PC.
Or your default state.
My default state, yes. If I didn't find something to be grumpy about, I'd have to invent something.
Yeah.
So, but I fired it up and off we go. I can't even really remember. It's right. It starts off with a kind of flashback thing. It's sort of tutorial come flashback where I think you're Michael, and you. This is like some heist gone bad in
The last big heist.
Is it the 80s that's happening in? It's hard to tell from the clothes and things.
It's a couple of years beforehand.
Yeah. So yeah, and that also does a little bit of a job of teaching how to move and fire a gun and that kind of thing. And these are sort of control system that you'd expect to understand, but at this point in the game, I mean, like, who rocks up to GTA 5 as their first ever gaming experience? Quite a few, given the sales numbers and everything, I just imagine quite a few people are playing their first proper computer game.
They're in for a
this.
surprise.
Yes, wow, yeah.
'Cause it's downhill from then on.
So, my own background and context, I've never really been a huge GTA fan. I've much preferred the Saints Row stuff. But I did try GTA 4 and I absolutely hated it. I bounced off it pretty much 2 story missions in and never played it again.
What was it about 4 that you didn't like? Was it the driving model?
The driving model was awful. It was like trying to pilot bouncy castles around a shopping mall car park.
A driving game by people who've never seen a car.
Oh, they were awful. I mean, I get that you want to try and create realistic cars, but it's then a bad expectation to get people to do like 90+ mile an hour chases in cars that are designed to be realistically handling at 40 mile an hour. You know?
They don't even drive at 40 in GTA 4. It doesn't work either. They've still got suspension, which is
It's like, oh yeah.
Okay, is it the unrelentingly depressiveness of the main character?
The story, as far as I followed it, was just this grim drudge of... It was basically an Eastern European immigrant who's trying to break out of gang, Eastern European mafia, Russian mafia type gang culture and try and go straight, and failing miserably, getting dragged into all sorts of horrific grinding misery and stuff. I didn't really get on with that. The protagonist himself wasn't that particularly interesting or likeable.
The plot wasn't that interesting.
Yeah,
and it had none of the... Well, it had the humour, but it didn't... embraced the humour.
And this was around the time that Saints Row was going utterly off on one. So, the comparison. Anyway, GTA 5. So you play through this sort of heist gone wrong thing. Michael gets shot and a couple of his mates also get shot by the police. And this character, I assume is Trevor, because I've heard about Trevor.
Is he big and loud and swears lots?
Big and loud and swears a lot with a big sort of handlebar moustache and stuff. He basically runs off into the snow at the end of it all, and then it fades to the present day. Then we're introduced to Franklin. And Franklin is the initial protagonist.
Yep.
He's African-American inhabitant of Los Santos. Now, anytime I say Los Santos, just mentally change that for Los Angeles, because it absolutely is.
More about that. Every one of their cities is...
was it Liberty City? It's supposed to be New York? Yeah. So he's in sort of the rougher neighbourhoods of Los Santos, and he's as a sort of unofficial repo man type for a shady used car dealership. And that's where you start. And the initial missions you get, the story missions are basically go to these places, pick these cars, take them off to, take them back to the place and so on. And of course, you got this idiot friend called Lamar, who's one of the most unlikable characters I've ever met.
It's weird because I really like Franklin. Franklin is a perfect game character because he's optimistic, he's friendly, he's nice, he just wants to do the right thing.
Well, I had a bit of culture clash and disconnect initially because obviously I'm not a black African American from the wrong side of Los Angeles who's having to struggle with gang culture to survive. But so it's quite difficult. But then that's in a way refreshing because quite often these video game protagonists are white middle class American types.
You'll get to him.
Ex special forces, whatever.
You get him quite soon. The white middle class.
I've met Michael. Yeah. As well. Anyway, so you do a lot of stuff as Franklin, and I quite like the storytelling of it all as it goes so far. I don't want to sort of go into specific details about the individual chapters and so on, but there's a real sense. It almost strikes me as some of the brighter Tarantino stuff. I'm sort of thinking Pulp Fiction and not Jackie Brown a bit. I don't know, not so much Reservoir Dogs because that was all just a bit, it's a violent gang battle, gunfight in a
stuff
warehouse.
Which seems a bit more.
Yeah, plotted. There's a lot of interweaving going on. There's a lot of careful thought and consideration. So basically, the initial thing starts off with Michael in therapy, which sort of has a bit of what's that thing with Robert De Niro where he's this mob boss who's analysed this, something like that.
I've never actually seen it.
There's some I haven't seen it either.
Is that the one with Thingy from Friends?
I don't know. The basic setup is that you got this fish out of water, clash of worlds sort of thing with this mobster trying to get therapy, and the analyst being increasingly drawn into it all. But I don't know if that happens later on, but so basically, we're introduced to Michael, and he comes out of the therapist and walking along, and he meets two African Americans coming the other way, and one of them turns out to be Franklin. They're asking for directions to a house, and then it sort of cuts from Michael to Franklin, and it starts to do this quite a lot throughout the thing, and presumably this Trevor character.
You can switch between three characters.
Well, as well as that being a game mechanic where you hold Alt and it lets you just switch between your main characters, it does it in the narrative sense as well. There's some interweaving.
Later on, there are some fantastic bits and missions where the three of them have a task to do, and it switches between them to do it dynamically.
Well, during gameplay, you've got this flashing thing in the corner showing you when it would be a good idea to switch to the more relevant character. And it introduces you to that during some of the heist stuff in the tutorial. But just the storytelling as well. Like, for example, so Franklin, so basically, Michael and Franklin walking past, they're strangers at this point. It cuts to Franklin, and off he goes. He basically him and Lamar steal two cars from a house and drive them back to the dealership.
Did you deliver them back in one piece?
Not really, no. That was probably my first. That was pretty much the driving tutorial, that mission. So it was unlikely they were going to get back unscratched.
The first time I did it, I actually got it stuck. I found a bit off one of the freeways where you could just jam a car and you can't get it out again.
Well, it's sort of presented as a kind of race. You and Lamar, Franklin and Lamar are sort of trying to race to get these two cars back there as a kind of good-hearted wager thing. And you end up going through a film studio with blokes in alien costumes wandering past, and then through car parks and all sorts of stuff. And you're introduced to Franklin's special mechanic, which is a kind of bullet time for driving, which is interesting. You hold control, tap control, and you go into a slow-mo mode, but the car still moves in real time.
Yeah, still.
What that essentially allows you to do is absolutely correct the usual thing of, oh God, I've gone completely wide on this corner, I'm never going to get around. But you can hit that button and suddenly everything else slows down and you can still steer it in real time, which means that effectively you're somehow driving relative to the rest of the world in speeded up time. Whatever. I don't
It doesn't matter. It's very cinematic.
Whatever. What it does mean is that for people who are crap at driving games like me, it gives you a really easy sort of cop out. I mean, one of the early side missions is a sort of Need for Speed style street race with a bunch of other hoodlums late at night in the downtown area. And the first couple of times I came in 6th out of 6th, I'd smashed into a house, bounced off a couple of buses, was going the wrong way at one point, and I thought, oh God, this is going to be terrible. And then I thought, oh, hang on, he's got this mechanic. So you hit the button, and suddenly you can swerve around inside corners past the entire pack and find yourself in front. And then you just let go and it recharges back up, do some more. It means that racing suddenly becomes really easy, particularly as you're Franklin.
I tend not to use that though.
Well, you don't need to.
No, I don't need to.
You're quite good at driving games. I'm not.
I'm awesome, so I don't need to.
Well, exactly.
Even so, I never remember these guys have special abilities.
Yeah, and I think Michael has something similar, but I don't know if it's been introduced or explained yet. But so anyway, yeah. So there's a whole load of missions where you're basically working for this used car dealer and getting the real wrong end of the stick over it all. And then Lamar decides to start stealing some of the cars you've been sent to, the bike you're sent to go and get, and then you end up stealing a bike from a local gang, the Vamos or something, a local Mexican sort of drug gang, and you end up caught in all sorts of gun battles and stuff. The shooting is interesting. I find the shooting in this really, really precise.
You're playing on PC with keyboard and mouse?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know, perhaps that's it. Perhaps it's designed more for controllers, which
it's still
quite
a
little less
precise on controllers, but on PC, it is so much more so.
It's incredible. I mean, I'm not the best shot either in these sorts of games, but you've got a little dot in the centre of the screen, which is your aiming reticle. And basically, if you put that dot on a distant gang member's head or something and push left mouse, they'll die.
Yeah.
It's that. There's no sort of weird drift cone, no random sort of spray, perhaps with the shotguns or something. I don't know.
It rewards...
With just a handheld pistol, I'm shooting down people. Chasing people in cars, like out the back of the car.
The pistol remains incredibly useful as a weapon because it does reward you for shooting.
It's incredibly precise.
Yeah,
and that was refreshing.
It doesn't feel the need to make shooting harder or to make them bullet sponges in order to make the fights go longer. It does it through other design.
I think my memories of 4 were that it was a lot more drifty with the shooting as well.
Well, it's sort of, but
certainly Saints Row is a bit spray and pray, but then that makes up for it with ridiculous weapons that just have massive AoE effects and all sorts of things anyway. But so suddenly I'm finding that I'm not dropped in the deep end with the basic playing the game. Perhaps they've made a conscious choice to make the control, perhaps they've just spent a lot of money and actually hired user experience people to actually make sure the thing works well.
You've got to remember that this is probably the best produced game.
It's absolutely
ever.
Polished, yeah. I don't know how much they spent on it. That made millions and millions, but they must have had an anticipation of it going to make millions and millions, which meant they could have afforded to hire enough people to do a good job.
I suspect we are close to Star Citizen money.
Yeah, it's almost peak game design and expenditure on this thing. So and then one of the cars you're sent to go and get, it turns out to be the car of the son of Michael, and halfway back as you're driving it back, Michael pops up in the back seat with a gun, saying, "Right, take me to this dealer." And suddenly you get these characters clashing into each other, and the story sort of coming through. And after that, Michael and Franklin sort of develop a kind of respectful friend. It's almost like a father-son mentoring sort of relationship, particularly because at that point it switches to Michael. We learn more about Michael's circumstances. He's basically a successful ex-con. He's got this massive multi-million-dollar house in the good part
really
of
nice
town.
House, isn't it?
No, lovely house. I mean, it's in what is effectively the Beverly Hills part of that city. I can't remember what they actually call it in this game. And he's got the car, the wife, the tennis coach who's sleeping with the wife. He's got the son, the spoilt son and daughter who are making nothing of their lives. And he's basically become too successful. It's that. I don't know. I've seen
successful on board.
It's a popular trope I've seen in this kind of film: the ex-gangster who's out of it all, but finds that real, normal life now, even wealthy normal life is boring and not what he was expecting, and really tedious. And so he just lets the family go to hell. Spends a lot of time just sat there on the sun lounger listening to Genesis at full volume, sunglasses on, and so almost you feel like, in a way, Michael's become too successful and he's become sort of washed up and tired and out of it all. And so obviously this is the setup for we're going to get the gang back together, So, he's got a contact that he worked with in the old days who's like the brains behind the outfit, and he gets a warehouse and they start planning heists, and he brings Franklin in on it because Franklin's a good egg and good at what he does and that sort of thing. I don't know where Trevor fits into it. I haven't got that far yet. But
angrily.
Yes, I've heard a lot about Trevor. I mean, but we were talking about the game quite a lot. You were playing it when it came out, and Trevor, the phenomenon of Trevor Trevor is quite a fascinating, much talked about thing.
Well, there's three aspects of this game. There's Franklin, who's the young, up and coming, ambitious guy,
trying to make something of himself. Not necessarily go straight and make something of himself in the conventional desk job sort of sense. He wants to be a successful and stylish, and
he wants to make his life better. There's Michael,
not just sort of scumming around the hood, ripping off individual passers-by and doing drug deals and stuff.
There's Michael, who's bored and still a bit impulsive and totally screws
Michael
up
has some
at the start.
fantastic anger issues. It's amazing some of the stuff he gets up to.
Well, the thing he does at the start, which means he has to go back to crime.
Yes. I mean, basically the whole setup and pretext. So you get a fair bit of introduction to character, and then Michael comes home to find the tennis coach sleeping with his wife in his own house, and that's the bit he's angry about. They got him and his wife are so sort of dysfunctional that they've got this open arrangement. Yeah, sleep with who you like, just don't do it in the house. And also Michael's cross because he's paying the tennis instructor to sleep with his wife, which he doesn't quite like. So he absolutely loses it. Franklin turns up at that point, and are you in? Yeah. And they go off to this like massive the tennis coach basically flees, and they chase him, and there's a lot of gameplay there. They get to one of these like fantastically opulent houses in the Beverly Hills bit. It has an overhanging cantilevered deck,
really nice,
with big balcony thing. So he manages to just ties a load of ties a winch to one of the supports of that, and literally pulls this house down. Turns out not to be the tennis coach's house. I'm a tennis coach. How do you think I could afford that? It turns out to be the house of the girlfriend of the local Mexican mafia, who turns up with a baseball bat and a load of blokes with guns and demands that basically Michael pays for a new house.
Yeah.
So, we'll call it $2.5 million. So, okay. And that's basically the sort of setup for the rest of the game, presumably. We're now having to make enough money to pay this gangster off. Which forces Michael to go back to planning the heists and the crime. I'm just starting in on the setup for the jewellery store, which is the first proper heist.
They're interesting. There's not enough of them, but they are fascinating. You get to make decisions about how you're going to do it.
Yes. The setups, you can go in loud, go in stealth, various different
really do
options.
it being expanded a bit.
Yeah.
I hope they
almost like an adventure game in themselves, planning the different way. I haven't actually done the heist yet. I was still, stealing nerve gas from nearby trucks and stuff.
You're
setting
going
up.
to love the bikes.
I found that in general, motorbikes seem to do well for me rather than cars.
You're going to love the bikes.
The bikes, okay.
That makes sense when you're swearing.
Right, fair enough. And it's an interesting game narratively. You've got all sorts of side mission stuff going on there. I think and they seem to be different for each character as well.
Yeah.
But you switch between characters, different coloured letters on the map appear, and Franklin's a green, Michael's a yellow, blue, and I'm presuming there's some yellow for someone else as well. But interestingly, there's 4 characters on that wheel, four silhouetted faces. I presume it's not just Trevor or someone else as well?
It is.
Oh, okay, I don't know. Anyway, so...
Yeah,
but just the random passers-by you meet for these side activities. It's a roam box game. There's got to be side activities, but the side activities seem to be interesting, not just random things.
There's simple ones like there's a weird one of a mime. There's pick up people broken down on the side of the road and take them where they need to be.
That's even more interesting. So you've got these actual side missions which are quite scripted activities. For example, Michael.
You mean
Michael
the actual missions?
Yeah, mission sort of ones. Yeah, the question marks. Michael comes across a woman who's really aggressively into fitness and tries to outrace her along the beach. That's quite an interesting one. Then there's the one where Franklin's driving a motorbike with a paparazzi photographer on the back trying to hound local celebrities.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch with the studio as well.
Yeah, and they all seem it's like interesting side characters, and these missions, then multiple stages, you meet these people again and do more stuff for them. They're quite fascinating. And then you've got the just roaming missions as well, almost like dynamic content. Every so often you'll see a red and blue flashing
but someone
thing.
broken outside with Trevor.
Yeah,
when it gives someone a lift,
you
have a choice: give them a lift or take them to the coals on the hill.
Right. Well, I was just wandering around as Franklin, and I saw somebody have their bicycle stolen. And I thought, right, okay. Well, I've got nothing better on. And I was on a motorbike, so I basically literally ran this bicycle down on the motorbike, jumped on, cycled the bike back to the person. They said, "Thanks, man," and then they sort of ride off. And then later, all the characters have got their own mobile phone with actual internet. This game has an internet in it.
It does, 4 did as well.
Yeah, there's like. smart messages and emails and all the rest of it. And I get this beep beep and popped up an email. And it turned out the bloke whose bike I'd got back to him was actually some kind of .com millionaire and had just given me $100,000 worth of stock, which I could then sell on their in-game stock market.
Oh, did you sell it?
Yeah, I just sold it.
Oh, no, you should have
$100,000. Well, I only had about $200 at that point. So
no, playing the stock market becomes a interesting thing to do later on.
Yeah.
Because you play it in the way that you would expect people in a GTA game to play.
Fair enough. But yeah, just so much interesting things going on. I mean, initially I was quite sceptical about the whole thing because when you start and you look at the big city map, there's very few icons on it, and I thought, that's not much. But it actually rations those out as features become introduced.
Also, it starts off making you think the world's relatively small.
Yes.
And by the time you get to Trevor and you realise, it goes that far.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the first things I did, because, this is the other thing.
You drive around the edge of the island?
Yeah. I mean, the island itself, so it's on an island, because that's probably the most elegant way to deal with edge-of-world issues. You don't have an invisible force field, you cannot go that way, pop up. But so it's a big old island, but it effectively replicates the Los Angeles Valley and some of the inland areas of Southern California there as well. And it does so really well. I've been there a couple of times, and it is absolutely reminiscent. They've done a really amazing job of recreating Los Angeles and the surrounding environs. It's a Los Angeles in miniature. It's all compacted.
Yeah, but as it needs to be.
Yeah, obviously.
You know what Los Angeles is like. It goes on forever.
It's a big old place, and there's a lot
and it's boring.
There's a lot of not much going on between interesting places. Absolutely. So
houses for.
But you've got things like, obviously, the Hollywood Hill, the Hollywood Bowl is there, the Santa Monica Beach and Mission Beach, and the pier and everything.
Oh, that pier is wonderfully done.
It's incredibly detailed, because I've been there. I've sat on some of those benches, and I'm thinking, my God, look, I had a drink in that one. Oh, my God, look, wow. It's an incredible place. I mean, and the level of attention to detail just generally gone into this game is absolutely astonishing. I mean, you can take or leave gangster heist games or driving games or games where you shoot people for money, but I mean, viewed purely as a kind of intricate sandbox, it is probably the most interesting and intricately detailed sandbox I've ever seen in a computer game.
One of the reasons why it is still so popular, and GTA Online is still very popular, is that turns a sandbox and gives you the ability to make your own missions and things.
I suppose.
It enables you to make your own racetracks in the sky, or proper races, or lots of other different types of missions. Just make them and do them.
Yeah, I mean, I was just wandering along this beach. There's loads of people wandering backwards and forwards, and I've just sat there looking at the people, and the people are pretty well done. They're not, they're not photorealistic as such, because but they don't trigger the uncanny valley. They're believable enough people. People of interesting and varied body types as well. It's not just male body, female body, cloned millions of times and given different hats. The clothing all seems varied and interesting, and the way they just stand around in little groups on street corners or walking across roads, you're driving along, it looks utterly believable. As a functioning city that's going about its business. I mean, traffic is a solved problem in these games, but really more so in here. I don't think I've ever seen the traffic just go mad, or just suddenly cars ploughing into buildings.
There's spawning issues, but
but the spawning is utterly seamless. I mean, and there's just busy traffic.
Sometimes it'll go
everywhere.
wrong where just cars will keep spawning in a spot and it goes wrong.
Maybe, but. And you've got the working street lights and everything out. The cars all queue. They use the right lanes.
Working street lights until you do the overtake.
Well, I mean, the problem is that for starters, I'm always trying to get in the wrong side of the cars.
Yep.
American cars, wrong side, driving steering wheel. And
Drive
also,
on the wrong side of the road.
Well, I'm all right on the right side of the road, but some of those intersections are a bit wow, hang on, is that how they really... Well, they probably work like that, really, yeah.
It's the turning right. It's a...
turning across the traffic and stuff. But yeah, and so I was just watching on Mission Beach, and I saw someone cycling past on a mountain bike, and I'm thinking, hello. So I ran over and did the push F to steal car, and punched them off the mountain bikes. Yeah, I'm on a mountain bike. And so I just went for a big old cycle around downtown Los Angeles, an act that would probably get you killed in real life. But you can do drive-bys on bicycles. It's
Have you bought any buildings yet?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, you can buy buildings and,
But there's just the astonishing intricacy and detail of this city, this functioning city, and the surrounding environs as well. There's a big old loop road that goes up around the island, and it goes on for quite a way. It takes a considerable amount of time to drive around the island. It's a good
don't get
10 minutes
as well,
or so.
So it's a decent distance to be able to fly as well.
Yeah. Despite it being set in essentially one city, which is a kind of Los Angeles, you've got quite a lot of surrounding countryside as well. There's like racetracks. There's a big old sort of series of lakes on the interior of the island with a sort of scrubby, sort of low shack type towns around them as well. There's airfields and so on.
Oh yeah,
there's a mountain that I decided to motorbike
Mount
up.
Chiliad.
Mount Chiliad, yes. I don't know which one that's meant to be in real life. There's a lot of
it's got a cable car at the top.
There's got a cable car at the top, yeah, which you can ride up and down for $10. And I thought, yeah, and as I was motorbiking up, I was going past backpackers who wandered up there. It's got like it's very good with context-sensitive spawning of cars and people. You know, you'll have backpackers and tents and things appear in the middle of nowhere, whereas in downtown Los Santos, you'll see people in business suits.
One of the things people do is challenges to get up Mount Chiliad fastest on a stupid vehicle, whatever.
It's just an incredible playground. It really is. I'm absolutely astonished. And
it's a military base as well.
Oh, okay. Is that the obligatory steal a tank, steal a jet, helicopters? Yeah. I'm looking forward to all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, I'm just
submarines. You haven't got to those yet?
No. I mean, I'll do a little bit of a mission or a side mission or something, and then I'll just take off on a mountain bike and go for an explore around the island or something. Okay. I mean, I'm trying to fill in the entire map, you know, that whole drive down every road thing. I don't know if that's a real thing or not.
Oh, no. I think unlocking the entire map is a thing, isn't it?
It's got a big old docks and harbour area that's similar to the south of LA. I don't think the Queen Mary's there. I haven't seen her.
Oh, I can't remember.
No, probably not. A bit too specific, I suppose.
Probably a bit too, they won't let them have it.
Well, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they changed all the names. Are there licensing issues?
Well, yeah, there's a certain amount of licensing issues, and also you don't want to.
Yeah, I suppose. But no, there's no doubting what this is meant to represent, and it does it incredibly well. I mean, all the various different brands of cars are in there as well. They've made their own brands up for various what's obviously an Audi, but not, that sort of thing. I mean, it's all the sorts of things you'd expect from a normal GTA game. But the thing is, I find myself just settling into the pattern of the traffic and following the laws and rules in a Grand Theft Auto game. You know, I mean, the whole point is to be stealing cars and shooting people. And I'm just following the traffic carefully, trying not to cause a ruckus and stuff. Well, I mean, for starters, just unnecessary police alarm stars are not required if you want to be doing missions.
Fantastic thing about that, you can hide in a bush to get away from the police.
I don't know.
It's not just get out of the circle. If they can't see you, they won't see you.
Yeah. I see the circle come past, but round down an alleyway, they seem to go past. So it's not been too. That's one of the real problems you can have with this kind of 5-star wanted type game is how merciless is that system.
It's avoiding a helicopter by hiding under the underpass.
They do need actual line of sight, or you can shoot their blinking spotlight out. That helps, that kind of thing. But a lot of these games, once you get to like 3 stars, it just gets almost impossible to lose anyone, and next thing, and they will just keep hunting you until you die.
Even in this, you still can't get away.
I imagine 5 stars is more difficult, but
it's still doable. More than doable.
You have to make the effort. I don't mind making the effort, but when that effort becomes all-consuming and you just got no real hope, and what message are they trying to tell? Are they trying to deliver this moral message that the police always win? Well, okay, fair enough.
Well,
it's not fun, is it?
I was playing that Need for Speed the other week, which has speeding in it. Need for Speed has speeding. You get police attention to get chased in an open world. Go away.
Yeah.
I don't want to drive sensibly between missions. Need for Speed.
You can get away with an awful lot of just going from A to B recklessly, which, as soon as you jump a traffic light, 5 stars, tactical firearm squad tank shoots you dead. That's no fun. But this does seem to pitch it at a reasonable level. I imagine there are, going to be instances later on where it's just absolutely, I'm going to be given 5 stars for something I've done in the story context and then have to try and work it off, and that's going to be quite interesting. But so far I've not found it, utterly punitive, which is a real danger with this kind of setup. But I mean, I think it's a function of how intricate and detailed and realistic. I say realistic compared to any other games I've played so far of this genre, that I find it harder and harder to break the law, harder and harder to just start killing people. That sudden examination of sociopathy when applied to a simulated universe, often something like Saints Row, particularly the later ones where you've got flying aircraft carriers and people with actual literal superpowers, and the enemies, the enemy gangs are Mexican wrestling mask people, or the fourth one where it's an alien run computer simulation anyway in the style of the Matrix. And you got weird, glitches happening in the system, or even the get out of hell thing where you're literally in hell trying to punch Satan. I mean, the less seriously they take it, the less seriously I'm going to take it. Clearly, but with GTA 5, there is humour there. The writing is humorous, but it's not just bonkers slapstick people running around dressed as hot dogs wielding sex toys all the time. It's a realistic and reasonable and rational canvas on which you can write a blackly humorous story in the style of a Tarantino thing or whatever. And that seems to work very well. I mean, you can go too far the other way, which is, I think, one of the main problems with 4 was just how dour the whole thing was.
Definitely.
Serious business. And if it's serious business, then I don't really want to be gunning down people in a shopping mall, thank you. That's not fun.
I think the problem with 4 is they decided they wanted to be a proper game, or to make a proper statement that games can be art. We're going to make a sort of very filmic thing. It's going to be this type of 70s gritty.
Yeah, but a lot of the stuff I've seen so far in GTA 5 is art, and it's of a humorous nature, and that's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean art doesn't have to be utterly without humour.
5 has sold way more than 4.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I initially put off buying this because it's a GTA game, and I just don't really feel much sympathy with armed gangsters. But the more you get to learn and know these people, I don't know about Trevor yet, we'll see, but certainly
you're going to hate Trevor.
Certainly Franklin and Michael, I've really sort of they've really grown on me as characters, as people.
Nobody likes Trevor as a person, but everyone likes playing as Trevor.
I suppose, yeah, because I remember a lot of the time there was lots of think pieces in various game journo mags about how Trevor is essentially the player as inserted into the game. Trevor is literally playing his life like he is a video game character, and all levels on levels meta, all that sort of thing. I don't know, perhaps he's just an arse and I probably won't mind to spend much time being him.
Oh, you will.
But I don't know, but I noticed also they've got little skill bars at things they're good at. Franklin's very good at driving and stamina, and whereas Michael's very good at shooting and stealth. So, but they all get better as they do more of these things. And indeed, Michael sends Franklin a text message at one point saying you should head to the range to sharpen up your shooting. There's and one of the early side missions of. With Michael is that woman who's really aggressively competitive on the racing, foot racing, and so you end up having to sort of work on the deficiencies of each, so that eventually all three of them, I guess, get to be super at everything. It's like a limited XP stat thing, but it's really not obtrusive at all, and you find yourself just ranking up in them by just doing stuff anyway.
Have you played golf yet?
No, I played tennis. My God, tennis. It's
a good tennis game.
It's a fully functional tennis game.
The golf game is probably the best golf game that's been released in years.
Well, this is the thing. Because they've got so much time and resource and effort and general expectation of reasonable success, they've really gone and spent a lot of money and time and effort making the thing. To the point where you have a fully functional tennis game that's as good as anything I've seen as an actual tennis game, that you're just playing with random people whenever you drive past a little symbol with a racket and a ball. And presumably, you say there's a golf game in there. I've seen the golf thing. I haven't had a go yet, but presumably it's as good as. There's triathlons. There's various street racing in cars. The driving model is satisfying enough. I don't know enough about driving generally to
it has a couple
critically
of
rate it, but
it's on the arcadey side, of course, which is good.
Yeah.
Also, it has this wonderful mechanism where you can rock the car and rewrite it after you've rolled it.
Okay. Oh, so
if you just push right, it'll roll over again.
Okay. Yeah, I think I remember it. It was a bit info dumpy. Tutorial.
Remember in 4, the problem was you would take a corner at 30.
And you just flip off.
Yeah, a nice gentle corner at 30, you'd roll into a hedge and be stuck there and it'd catch fire.
Get out, beat it to death.
But in this, if you push right, you'll just flip it over again.
Okay, yeah. So there's that
and
whole aspect
of it. Sort of an
it's the depth of it. I mean, it's a very broad thing. Most sandboxes generally, by definition, are very broad things, but they're often quite shallow. Yeah, there'll be one or two interesting activities in that sandbox you repeat ad infinitum, but generally it is what it is. But there's just all sorts of hidden depths to these places. There's movies. You can phone up NPCs you've met and done missions for and hang out with them. And I found myself doing that. I thought, Frank, I just sort of took a bit pity on Michael's son. I thought, go on then, let's get a drink. Head up to the bar, they end up getting sort of blind drunk, staggering around. And I just thought, wow, it was starting to border on. There's real aspects of simulation in there. I don't know about the Sims per se. That's perhaps going a bit far, but there's a lot of depth and intricate sort of avenues to explore further
Yeah.
in this world. It's not just the superficial, it is what you see. And that's astonishing. I mean, there's all sorts of activities, side things you don't even know about. I went up that cable car and found a backpack on the top that had a letter in it.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, hello, collectible gameplay. And that hadn't even been introduced. That was just something I stumbled on.
Have you found a parachute yet?
No.
There's parachuting.
Well, they've got flying stats,
Yeah.
so presumably they can go and get planes
You can
and
base jump.
helicopters. Yeah, I assumed there'd be something like that, yeah. I mean, some of the more, I'm just enjoying wandering along the street looking at people, let alone let's go steal an aircraft and skydive onto the top of a skyscraper. I'm sure that probably comes up as a heist at some point. But, it's amazing, a really amazing thing to lose yourself in. I mean, I get the same kind of thing I get from Skyrim. Skyrim's combat's not necessarily great, and the magic's all right. The creeping's quite satisfying, but just the depth of world and so much going on. But more so, and in a contemporary setting, which is interesting as well. You rarely get that kind of thing. I mean, obviously your Saints Row, I suppose, but I think Saints Row's gone somewhere different and now gone away entirely now, hasn't it? Agents of Mayhem really didn't review very well.
No, it failed to put in the game.
Yeah. So, I could just play this thing I'm going to be playing it for years, I think, just seeing the intricacy of it all. And that's not even looking at the online element, whatever that involves. That's some sort of co-op thing or just a giant bun fight?
Giant free-for-all, but you can also set up missions and things. And
Okay. I mean, if it had any downsides, I suppose the reviews I've seen is that no one really likes the exploitative nature of their cash shoppery on the online component of it. But if you just ignore that entirely, like I'm so far doing, and just play the story mode, there's easily enough to keep you busy.
The single players are
hundreds of hours.
worthwhile on its own.
Yeah. And even if you're not that into, let's shoot up some fools and steal some drugs and drive a car really fast, if that sort of lifestyle sort of thing's doesn't really appeal, then just review it as a kind of simulation sandbox of a really interesting part of the world, done very well. It's astonishing. I mean, I don't know how much you'd get if you'd never been to LA, but if you've seen bits of LA on television and stuff anyway, it is just a really interesting city functioning, as a clockwork thing. And you'd really get the sense that it carries on without you. It probably doesn't. It's all sorts of clever smoke and mirrors and spawning and so on, but it's done very well. Looking forward to playing a lot more of this.
Yeah, cool.
And I'm surprised because I didn't think I'd like it. I don't really like the
I knew you
GTA.
would. But,
I think 4 soured me quite a lot. But
4 was
and also I'd had
joyless.
more of a shine for the Saints Row stuff than GTA. But this seems to have really got them back where they need to be after 4, I think. Whereas Saints Row, 4 was just all over the place. It was a fun game in itself, but it's like it's almost decided to veer off and make its own genre at that point. So, surprised how incredible it actually is. I mean, that many people can't be wrong, surely. So,
well, they can.
Finally I've caught up. Well, fair enough. So, I'm looking forward to working my way through the story, essentially, but probably playing hundreds of hours of just pottering around in it afterwards as well. Yeah. There's just so many hidden nuggets in there as well, because that's what you get from... How many people do you think worked on it? Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Yeah. Rockstar. It's 2 different studios, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all of Rockstar working on it.
Yeah.
I think back then it was 4. That's right.
Who knows how much money they spent on it, but they've obviously it worked. It
probably
paid
a couple of $100 million.
This, I suppose, I don't know, is this AAA done right?
Yeah.
Is this the correct top end of it? This is how it should work?
This is the correct top end, how the top end should happen.
Yeah. An example of getting, yes, you spend a lot, but you get a lot for that money as well. Yeah. So, everyone benefits at the end of the day, I suppose.
But it takes a certain studio to be able to do it with a certain amount of not taking risks.
Yeah,
they didn't really take any risks. They just refined what they were doing.
Yeah, it's an utterly established format, but executed very well, and with a lot of twiddly bits added on. Yeah, it's brilliant. So, over to you.
A couple of years ago, back when I thought doing such a thing was a good idea, I supported a game on Kickstarter.
Okay.
Called the Universim.
I can't. I suppose. Yeah.
I
did a Kickstarter.
And I was looking back through my list of well-invested money on Kickstarter to all of the games that I've got now. Some are okay, some not so good, some never happened, some...
As an overall percentage, how would you say your satisfaction is with your Kickstarting so far? How many?
About 50-50.
Oh, right. That's that high, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
You've got us at one end and Star Citizen at that end, but
Yeah.
then you've also got the odd good thing.
Elite
But-
Dangerous.
Yeah, Elite Dangerous being one of them. But the Universim is a god game.
Okay.
Basically, it's you have people running around on a very small spherical planet.
Okay.
You put down buildings, do research, they can grow and expand and get more of them. So it starts off with you put down your main building thing, then the people mill around and you say, right, I'm going to want a farm here. Boom, put down a farm, tell the people to work on the farm, say, I'm going to want somebody to work in that farm, grow this crops, and then the people go off and start making huts to live in on their own. They do the huts.
All right.
You don't get any control over the huts. So then you need to do stuff like actually have enough water, enough food.
It's sounding kind of familiar.
Yeah, it's very, very familiar.
Populous 3, you remember that? Which was on a big sphere?
Yeah, very much. Yeah, along those lines. It very much wants to be a Molyneux game.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
No.
A good Molyneux game.
In a Molyneux game where there's actually something playable.
Okay.
And then you research new technologies, like you'll research a graveyard, research a hospital. You can put them down, and then you just build up and up and up and up. At some point, you get this other building, which will make it all into medieval, and then in the future to go up through all of the bits up until the modern day and futuristic.
Okay.
So you take the civilization from Stone Age up to whenever.
Oh, that sounds interesting, yeah.
Yeah, the version at the moment, still not out, it's only in preview, takes it up to, I think you can just turn it into medieval.
You say it's only out in preview, so this isn't finished yet.
No, 2014 I backed it.
Okay,
My
we might
first
might come back to that, yeah.
Yeah, keep an eye on that. That's an important
Yes.
fact. There's so many building types, and you just build up and do it.
It's just, popular kind of format, your Anno games,
It works,
Civilization.
works well enough. A couple of problems.
Yeah.
One, stuff like the graveyard being locked behind research. If you don't do your graveyard research soon enough, people are going to start getting ill and die, and then they're going to infect other people who are going to get ill and die.
Well, is that part of the challenge and the puzzle of successfully
Which means
growing
you
up
need
a
the hospital.
civilization?
But if people started getting ill and dying, then you make the hospital. There's no way the hospital's ever going to be able to cope with the number of ill people. So game over again.
Okay.
It is a balance.
So it sounds more like there's a correct way to advance through the technology.
There is, and it's not
and
entirely
if you get it
clear.
wrong, you fail. Which is perhaps the parameters of the game.
Well, that's the other thing with it. There is definitely a path you have to take through it all.
Yeah.
And in the version as is, there is no variance off this path because it's basically I need to research constantly. When I get these buildings, they need to be built instantly.
Yeah. So there's a kind of design choice for how the game should be played. Yeah.
To start with, you have to race through the technologies to get to a point where you got all the bases covered.
And you'd prefer.
And then, but at the end of that, there's not really anything else to do. Apart
you've
from...
won. You've done it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd prefer a more open thing where you can pick and choose and develop your
I would.
civilization.
I'd like it to be a bit wider rather than just a bit too laser focused.
Do this in the
Because
correct order or you fail. Yeah.
it doesn't really lead to replay.
Well, yeah.
And it never will.
It's
If
a
you've always
puzzle that you've solved.
Yeah.
Done.
If it's always just unlock all these things, you get a list of things to do. You have to unlock all of those things before you get to the next tier of stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to unlock them all anyway. So what you're basically doing is saying, I've got a choice of 3 things to unlock. I can queue them up in order. I'm going to take that one, then that one, and then once this is unlocked, this new building is available. I can then build it.
Do you have a rival enemy empire doing the same thing? No, okay. So this is sounding more and more like a toy than a game. You know,
Well, that's
it's
the
an
problem.
intricate thing you can play with, but doesn't have a particular.
It's preview,
Yeah.
and so really,
early access forgives many sins.
doesn't have much in the way of things to do. I was watching a GDC talk by the guy who made Slime Rancher, and he was talking about their early access experience.
Yeah.
And one of the core things that he said, which I agree with 100%, is you have to make sure that you have a working game there with all of your core gameplay in from as early as possible so that people play it. If you show a game to somebody and you say, oh no, this will be in there.
Yeah.
Don't worry, that's the crafting's going to be fantastic, and we'll cover up all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's no use at all because everyone's going to
You're demonstrating systems, aren't you, at that point?
People are going to forgive what's wrong in your game because you've told them that it's going to be fixed by that. And you've also got the problem...
you're just ratcheting up expectations at that point, piling on more.
Yeah. And you've got the problem of reviews saying it doesn't have this, and that review never goes away.
Yeah, yeah.
So what you need to do is
This is the fundamental problem with early access, isn't it? It's putting it out. It's first of all, you're charging for money.
Yep.
For something that's incomplete, and then going, oh, it's okay, it'll be finished in the future. Some date pulled out of thin air.
Yeah.
And then you expect everyone to take that into account, to cut you slack. Well, you've already taken the money. You don't get that right. I think. This is my main beef with early access as a concept, is you want your cake and it. That's a stupid phrase, isn't it?
If you've
got a cake, you're going to eat it. Why would you have a cake and not eat it? Anyway, the point being is that, you shouldn't be charging the box price for something that isn't finished and then expecting people to treat it as if it were finished, or even hold back their judgment until it's finished. You can't do that.
Yeah, if you look at something like Elite, which day one came out with, this is the playable version. Oh, look, it's got all the Elite features. It may not be as
a lot of people call it
expanded
shallow and dull, and they get bored early.
It had all of the core gameplay.
It was playable, yeah.
And so it's got all the conflict in there you need, all of the flying around, all the trading.
As a standalone product, it did work. Yeah, I mean, your own personal preference as to whether what was presented as a playable game was good enough.
If you look at the Universim and you think, what is the actual game going to be? From what they've got there, all you can really conclude is it's going to be build buildings, advance your technology, rinse, repeat, and really, why am I doing this? Because it's filling time.
I suppose the least you'd expect on the finished version would be a couple of computer-controlled enemy empires doing something similar that you've got to race against and possibly fight. But if you're just doing it to fill in a chart, I don't know, it becomes a game of solitaire at that point.
Yeah.
Or some little
as it stands,
slidey block puzzle.
As it stands at the moment, it takes a couple of hours to play. Each time you play it is identical gameplay, and there's zero challenge.
I think I saw this come up on Steam. I follow Steam quite extensively. Check the new each day, check the different categories. I quite frequent the space games category quite a lot because I like those. And it's just that looks interesting. Scroll. Oh. Big blue box, early access. Right, next. So, that looks interesting. Scroll, early access. Right, next. I'd love for there to be a filter on Steam that will just omit anything that has the early access flag, because I'm
just wait till it comes out.
So not interested in being paying to beta test your game.
I forget what it was. One of the games I was looking at, it's coming out of early access.
Yeah, that's it. You look on the new page and you think, hasn't that been out for like a year and a half? You click through on the new list. Oh, they've launched. And
it hasn't changed anything.
It's not actually mean anything except they changed the number from 0.9 to 1.0. And there'll still be another load of patches through to about 1.5.
Well,
1.1
in a lot of cases
release.
It's still, all these features still aren't in.
Yeah. It's just, basically coming out of early access is not so much about feature completion. It's about
wave of publicity.
No, it's about having expended the patience of your backers. Oh crap, they're getting angry. We better release. It doesn't necessarily mean it is actually finished. And the thing is, I got used to, but then I always thought that the early access phenomena meant that the 3 months rule wouldn't need to exist anymore, because essentially you're front loading all that. Normally I'd wait 3 months before a game after a game release, so that all the super keen early people jump on it, find all the bugs, under very large load user testing. Delta testing, I like to call it. And then they basically rant on the forums that a whole load of patches come through, and 3 months later the game is where it should have been on day one. And that's when I think, right, I just saunter up and put my money down and buy a complete and functional and working game. But then I thought, early access, that means all that stuff will be done by super keen people who've paid often 4 or 5 times what the final retail cost is. But no, we still have a 3 month rule, only now the funding model's changed and somehow they don't need publishers anymore. I don't know, it's grumble, grumpy old man. But basically I'm done with early access. I tried it once or twice, and it has one or two, I think Space Engineers is an example of where I broke my early access rule, and it actually turned out to be quite good. But still, since then, we did a big old series on it, and that was about 2 years ago. And since then, they've taken the physics model out 3 or 4 times, and the networking code and redone it.
And it doesn't seem to have progressed at all.
Still not ready for launch. Still not out of early access. And I just despair, because the more early access goes on and the more people put up with it and tolerate it and accept it as the way things are now, the less incentive there is for anyone to ever finish anything. And I just think, if I set myself this rule of I am not playing any early access game, there's not going to be any games left for me eventually. Because why? It doesn't pay. Look at Star Citizen. It absolutely does not in their interests to actually launch anything. No. Because that collapses the possibility bubble, and people will see Star Citizen for whatever it turns out to actually be, and it won't change from that, and it won't get better than that. But at
this point, everyone's got so many views on what it's going to be. It doesn't stand a chance.
People can dream and put the money down to support their dream and feel good about it all, and often their own imagination will work up in their minds a much better game than Star Citizen can ever possibly be, and in a way, I suppose that's worth $15 right there. I guess I'm hating on Star Citizen. That's not fair. I mean, there's so many games that do this nowadays.
It's fair.
Yeah, I get so sick of just early. Oh, I like the look of that. Oh no, early access. I mean, it's just, and we're sidestepping the review process. It's like the whole early access situation is a way to inoculate the industry from Metacritic. You can't do reviews yet because it's not launched. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, we will hold off our withering scorn that people rely on.
That's incredibly cynical of you.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it used to be you'd look up in a few, PC game mags. Remember those? All right, the online equivalent. Oh, yeah. If you're a reductive simpleton, you could just go to Metacritic and look at the number, and if it's got a yellow background, don't buy the game. But we're in a situation now where Metacritic, regardless of any other ethical considerations, have a rule where they don't take reviews from games that aren't released yet, so you can make all your money before Metacritic pan your game.
So cynical.
I am very cynical.
Yeah.
Well, it's a shame. I used to be quite optimistic.
10 years of this will do that too.
I know. Well, I've seen it all really, but everyone seems fine with early access. Everyone seems fine with Kickstarter. Nobody except grumpy old washouts like me seem to have any kind of internal quality control anymore. Yeah, they'll buy it. They'll get cross. They'll send up rockets on forums, but it doesn't matter. They've all got your money at that point. If you don't like what keeps being dished out as early access, stop flipping doing it. And then, big bad publishers. Well, yeah, but with a publisher comes some degree of quality control usually. Publisher usually has some degree of QA they'll apply to the project just because it's their own good name and reputation on the line. And
you think so? There's certain
companies. I don't know. Anyway, so there's me sticking up for the man and big business and early access. Woo, but it's not the sort of, I don't know. I'm just sorry, carry on. Where were you? You were ranting about Universim, and I just
about
totally
it being early access and not. It's all very polished. It looks good. It's polished. They put a lot of effort into it, but not enough into the actual game.
So they've got some competent artists and developers. They haven't got much in the way of designers, by the sounds of it.
I don't know. I think they might do, but they just haven't developed out the systems enough.
I'll give it another 5 years, and perhaps it will be suitable to purchase.
Maybe. I go and play it every couple of years to see what it's like, or every year or so. And compared to last time, there's not much more been done since the last time I played it. And there's
they've already got your money. What, can you ask for a refund?
No. There's whole new sets of artwork going to go in for. They've really made a rod for their own back with when you hit the medieval age, you need medieval artwork.
Yeah, so like every sort of 50 turns of gameplay or every hour of gameplay, all the art assets change.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, okay.
How many ages are you planning on?
That may be in the not.
And what does your science fiction age look like anyway? Yeah. Presumably they have one.
I believe they're going to.
Yeah.
There's lots and lots of shots. It's going to look like with skyscrapers all over the building, all over the thing. But at the moment, no, it's just. Yeah,
but the way a contemporary city works is fundamentally different to the way a sort of 9th century Iron Age Phil or whatever works. So you're talking utter gameplay changes as your age moves forwards.
Yeah. You can't plan cities well enough. You can because you can place down where you want the main buildings, but they put down all of the individual huts where they live. And little roads will appear, little paths will appear as they walk, which is quite a nice little feature. Doesn't quite work right, but I like it. I forget what the term is called. There's a method of determining where you have paths by just looking to see where someone's walked across the grass.
Oh, yeah.
It basically does that.
Well, that's been there as early as the Settlers games. You'd see people wandering around would leave grooves, and you put the roads down there. Yeah.
But so it doesn't really appeal to the ordered person. The person who likes to play city skylines and say, I'm going to make a really nice ordered, planned city which works perfectly.
Yeah.
And once
that's why city skylines work. City skylines, you don't have a red enemy city building over the horizon that you're trying to race, or do you? I don't know.
No.
But it is literally the planning and the creating of an ordered and functioning machine.
And it's the satisfaction of making that be a thing.
Presumably there's a score element. How many people can this city sustain and still work with the ratios and stuff?
Well,
It's a ratio management
You've
game
got
at that point.
population, you've got amount of money coming in. And
Yeah, you have to
work.
manage to balance it all.
It has to be profitable, of course.
Balance it all whilst designing an aesthetically pleasing and functional city.
Yeah,
You don't-
and nothing in this really goes down that route. And you don't have enough of the balanced systems to be able to say, okay, I'm going to need a bit more water, but no, it's not. It's a case of, okay, I'm going to put down another water pump, and then I've got enough water. For
I mean,
a
they
while.
say conflict is the driver for all stories. I mean, do you not have like knights or soldiers or militias that you're trying to arm and equip?
No, not
and
at
do
all.
they not get to fight wolves or barbarians?
There's some quests, but the quests are so-and-so's gone missing. Use your godly powers, which aren't used anywhere else in the game, to go rescue them. And you think, I've got to find them on this map if I can't be asked.
Right. Fair
Or
enough.
so-and-so and so-and-so are destined to be together and make them have babies. But you've got abilities to say, he falls in love with her, click, click.
I
And
see.
it happen, and
Yeah,
don't
I
care.
totally see this as absolutely a Molyneux wannabe
Yeah.
thing. There's shades of black and white to the whole
What
thing.
it
as well.
feels like it that wanted to make the ultimate Molyneux God sim and didn't stop to think, hang on, I'm making Populous. Populous wasn't that complicated.
And at risk of attracting all sorts of attention, Populous wasn't that good either, really.
I played it recently.
Yeah.
Populous stands up less well to the rigours of today's gameplay as some other games of that era.
As you
other
say, it is
games
quite
of
simple.
that year, indeed.
Well, it was graphically amazing, and also I think it was one of the first games I played on an Amiga, coming to it from a Spectrum.
And you had the ability to raise and lower land, which was fantastic.
Yeah,
at the
intricate and little people. It was a kind of simulation that we didn't really see. I mean, there was SimCity, I think, in that era, and that was about it. Really.
Civilization
Everything
had
else
just
was just
kicked off.
platformers and sideways scrollers, you know. So it
Well,
was.
not entirely true.
It was certainly
There were other times.
revolutionary in its time.
It was revolutionary of its time.
And I'm sure, I don't know, are there any... Because you get a lot of games... I see a lot of games these days which are straight remakes of ancient games like that. Things like Dungeon Keeper being remade.
That's actually really good.
That Dungeons... I can't remember what the name
I
is.
forget what it's called.
There is a
Played it,
modern
talked about it.
remake.
It's really good.
Modern
It's
remake
really
of Dungeon Keeper, yeah. I mean, I'd love to see something like Powermonger remade as well. That'd be interesting. And Populous, and
I tried playing
Populous
Powermonger.
remake is Goddess, isn't it? And that's...
And that fell down the
Yeah,
same hole
yeah.
because it had exactly the same problems.
A lot of those
Take a-
early Bullfrog games were astonishing. This is where Molyneux gets his initial reputation from, because all that early Bullfrog stuff was astonishingly intricate and sophisticated for the platform and for the time.
Yeah.
And they were good games. But, you know, in the modern context, do they hold up particularly? I
Not
don't know.
really. Which is the problem.
I saw Magic Carpet on Good Old Games the
Yeah.
other day. I'm quite tempted to get that. I have fond memories of that thing.
That was a very good game.
I'm sure there was a early access remake of that by someone else as well. I'll have a look. I can't
wouldn't
remember
be
the name.
surprised.
But yeah.
But yeah, because all it was flying around picking up.
Yeah,
it was
kind of-
basically
it was
an
kind of
arcade shooter.
Arcade sort of aerial shooter, yeah, with magic powers, big dragon things and
play that. I've
orbs.
not played that for a
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it has the vision. It has the idea,
yeah.
but not the vision of a game. It has the idea of I want to make one of these,
Yeah.
rather than I want to make this game.
I don't think you can just remake Populous these days. You
No.
need more.
You
need
really
to,
do need
need to
more.
do something with it.
And yeah, Goddess fell over because it didn't have that more,
Mm.
and it became just an exercise in collecting belief in order to expand.
For its own purpose.
Yeah,
yeah.
and that was where it fell down. That and
Is there enemy empires in Goddess? There was an opponent in Populous. You were essentially fighting the devil. You know, there was a red evil god and a blue good god, and there were similar techniques in it. You know, it was you were racing to beat them at
Goddess
their own
had
game.
enemies you were fighting against, yes,
Okay,
but it never really developed to be anything interesting.
Yeah.
And we've played multiplayer
Head-to-head
Populous on the
Populous.
Amiga.
Two Amigas with a null modem cable and two televisions. That was one of my very earliest online gaming experiences.
Just fighting over that one bit of land.
Yeah. Two moderately skilled and equivalently competent players is a game of Populous is the most tedious thing ever. It lasted about 2-3 hours, and it came to individual hills just going da 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 until one of you broke and tried to raise a hill somewhere else, and then you just jump across and do the same thing. It was amazingly tedious. Yeah. I mean, the spectacle of it, hey, I'm playing a head-to-head computer game. This is amazing. But, eventually we were just so evenly matched that it just really bogged down to a stalemate. We should have just quit at some... Well, we did in the end, I think. I don't think it actually resolved. Yeah.
Yeah, so having played many hours of it this week. I don't see where the game is going, and as the game as set doesn't give any clue to anything beyond it's just going to be more of the same. It's very disappointing.
Okay. Well, they've already got your money. You've got nothing to lose by just coming back in the future and seeing if it's gone anywhere. But there's nothing stopping these people just getting bored, giving up, and just dropping the whole thing at that point. They've already made the money. That's the other side of early access, isn't it?
Well,
the refundability of it all, or their
this
or
particular
lack of.
company is publishing other games at the moment. So
Well, exactly,
I think what's happened is they've realised that they've
bored
got
of this
nowhere to
now.
go.
Yeah. And there's no real incentive, no financial incentive really for them to complete the thing because they've already done all the sales.
There was another game recently where
So there's very few people like me waiting for it to be finished.
there was crowdfunding for a game which turned out to be crowdfunding to make a totally different game.
Yeah, well, I mean, just the ethical dubiousness of scams, actual scams, is another thing. But yeah, eventually, if you've been paid already, and now you have to just plod on and make those. This is why most certainly IT projects and just most work in general, you get paid at the end.
Yeah.
Oh well, I don't know. Say no to early access.
Definitely.
Right. Gosh, look at the time.
I know we've done 2 games in an hour.
2 games in an hour. We're really slipping. Yes, you better do your spiel then.
You can go along to howtomurdertime.com. You can see our previous shows for everything over the last 10 years.
More hiking.
You can also go onto YouTube where there's more hiking and this and nothing else yet because I got ill. And you can join us in 2 weeks' time for show 200.
Ooh.
Are we doing anything special?
I don't know. Are we doing anything special?
No.
We'll probably do something special. See you next time.